Hi, welcome to the episode 6. So in this video, we are going to talk about Osint, like how you can perform user enumeration and how you can find valid assets of the victims, like basically which belongs to Azure, and how you can even find find some credentials, some secret keys from Google or GitHub or something like that. So first start with the user enumeration. So whenever you try to log in into Microsoft page, you have noticed one thing, right? That Microsoft first asks you for the username, then password. And it checks whether the username is valid or not. So now let's recreate that thing and try to understand what's going on in the backend. So let's open up the Google Chrome and click on. Okay, I'm already logged in here. Let me open the incognito tab. Okay, so here if you see, if I type any random name and click enter, it says the username may be incorrect, but make sure you type it correctly. Otherwise, contact to basically the username is invalid, right? So now let's see what's going on in the backend by clicking on Control Shift C and click on networks. And now again, that's some random domain. Click on next and then click on here. So here this is the URL API which is similarly mentioned in the slide, which is this one, the same URL. So same URL is being used and it's a post request. The payload contains some parameters like this, but what we need is this only one, which is username. And in the response, what we get is something like this, where if exists result is 1. That means that if the username is invalid, then the value of this is going to be 1. Now let's see if what happens if the username is valid one. So let's say test 1 at the rate 1 dot on my micro so soft.com. So now let's check again. This time in the response, it says if exists result is 0. That means that email ID what I just entered was a valid one. So in this way, this API is basically responsible to check whether the email ID is valid or not. Now let's say you're doing any red team assessment and you find out a domain. Now you want to create a long list, let's say thousands of list of email ID to check if and to just to have a valid email IDs. So you can use this API, right? But there's a limitation. You can only try it up to 100 or maybe less than that, but I'm not sure with the numbers, but it's somewhere around 100 only. So what can you do? Simple. You can just uh, send the API request from different IPs. That can be done by using the burp extension, which is the IP rotator tool. So by using that IP rotator extension, you can send all your uh, requests with different IPs, and you can go up to like thousands and thousands of username enumeration. Like you can perform that task. So now let's do the same thing in our CMD and try to see if we can create our own tool as well or not. So let me open the terminal and let me just copy the curl command, which is this. So here, okay, this is a PowerShell. I don't want a PowerShell. CMD. Right. So this is the curl command. So here we are using the curl post request. The URL is this, and the data is basically the username and password. In the previous, in here, you can see that there were a lot of parameters going on in the JSON format, but we don't require all of them. We just required the one, which is where is it? Which is here. So now let's type an invalid domain name and the result is 1, so which means it was an invalid one. And now if I type a valid one here, so it will give me if exists result is 0. So here it was 0, here it was 1. So this can be done. Now there are tools also available here to recreate this task. So you just need to type like Azure username enumeration GitHub. So you can find a lot of different tools available like this. But there is one more tool which is built by me, which is within the Vajra module. I mean, within the Vajra tool, the module name is users. So just click on users, paste your email IDs, like whatever the list you have. Click on save and click on enumerate. So once you run this, it will give you the valid and invalid email IDs, which is this one is an invalid one, and this one is the invalid, and this one is the valid one. So you can use this module also, or you can use any other tool, whichever you want to use. It's up to you. So this was all about the username enumeration thing. The second is the asset enumeration. So in Azure, there are a lot of different services, and all those services has their own static domain, which looks something like this. Let's say sem.azurewebsites.net and azure.net both belongs to a same service, which is the app service. So the first one is for the live terminal of the app service, and second one is where your domain is going to be hosted. And rest, file, warp, queue, and all those things are for the storage account, key vault, and database. So you can use this thing by using the Google Docs or GitHub or any other tools, any other asset finder tool. Let's say Azure Asset Enumeration GitHub. So you can use this tool, these tools available here, or you can even like Azure Subdomain Enumeration GitHub. Specifically whatever you want, whatever you like to use. In this same case, I also have my own tool, which is this subdomain, where I can just give my custom names like test, Dave. Click on save and click on enumerate, and in just like couple of seconds it will give you all the results. So you can see there are a lot of different domains like dave.vault.azure.net, azureedge.net, and a lot of things are going on. So in this way, you can find subdomains as well using Bajra or any other tool. uh, okay, the next is leaked data. So data can be leaked from anywhere. Like it can be leaked from publicly hosted application. GitHub, you can find secrets keys from the GitHub, which obviously everyone, like a lot of people, bug bounty people get. And expose services like storage accounts. Like expose service, I mean those services which are publicly exposable, like storage account. If the storage account containers are not private, and if they are public, anyone can just view all the files, list out of files, and download and like do all those things. So in that way, so some of the data we can look for, like what kind of data can we see. So first is the service principal. The service principal basically contains client ID and the client secret, which is the important one. Once you find the client ID and the client secret, you can try to log in within the Azure CL using the Azure CLI, which is Azure login service principal client ID and the tenant ID. So you provide that and you can log in, and if those service principals have any permissions, you can abuse that, and you can find more ways to escalate your privileges. Then connection string. So connection string about for the connection for the storage account. So let me show you how this connection string looks like. So if you navigate to storage account, and if you have created the storage account, that's okay. If not, just create a one or just have a look here. So if in the storage account, if I navigate to access keys, you can see there are two keys, which is key 1 and key 2. And if I click on show, so which is basically the connection string. So you can see the format of the connection string, something looks like this, where is default endpoint protocol. So if I copy from here to here and try to find in the GitHub to see if someone has hard coded the connection string or not. And yes, someone has did that. As you can see, this whole is one connection string, the storage dot access control and this thing. So now let's, once you have this value, you can use storage account explorer, which is owned by Azure itself. So you can use that and click on this button, which is the switch plug button something, and click on storage account or service and connection string, click next, paste the token, place the connection, the string, and click on next. And if it's valid, then we, yes, it's successfully new connection. So now let's see if there's any containers available or not. So yeah, there are containers. There are 4 containers. If we see on WAD crash dumps, which is basic, which looks like useless, but just for the example. So folder, okay, more folders. Okay, so these are all the files available here. So in this way, you might find some interesting containers available publicly exposed. So yeah, this way how a basic OSINT thing works. SAS token, yeah, I didn't talk about access keys. So access key can be for the database of Azure, can be of like Cosmos DB or any other database. Then we have SAS token. SAS token again belongs to storage account. Let's say if I have a container, where is it? Yeah, if I have have this container, and if I click on my container, I can create a SAS token, which is shared access token, and I can like use which key I want to use, give the permissions like read and list. If you only provide read, then they only be able to read that specific file. If you give list, then they will be able to list the files in the specific folder. You can set the date and time and generate SAS token. So this is the token which is being used, and this is the URL which can be used. So let's say if I have this URL, I can click on this again, click on SAS access token, paste the key. Okay. I guess it doesn't want this part, or maybe not here. It doesn't work here. Okay, yeah, it's since it belongs to a container, we should click on the bulb container, click on here, and then paste. It will work. And click next and connect. And we have a successful connect. And there are some files, some temp files like folder, version, my folder 2, and some files. So in this way, SAS token can also be found and we can use in this way. So yeah, that was all about the OSINT. In the next video, we are going to talk about some next thing. I don't know what was. Okay, we are going to talk about MFA, like how you can bypass the MFA, or how what misconfiguration can be done while configuring the MFA thing and all those stuff. So see you in the next video.